Hi everybody, John here, halfway through the month of Advent. I thought it seemed appropriate to have a little bit of a Christmas aesthetic to this video. I'm also going to start off this video by showing my copy of The Wondrous Book, written by James Griffiths. I'm fortunate enough to even get a signed copy, so lovely. I look forward to reading this and spending a bit more time with Squeeze. I think that's probably going to be an enlightening experience for me. Okay, so last video I showed a good batch of records, rock and roll records, mainly from the 60s, early 60s and of course late 50s, and they were particularly well preserved ones, and a lot of you actually quite enjoyed seeing that video, which was quite rewarding, because trust me, I liked buying those records and I really liked cleaning them up and listening to them and making the video. So I've got a lot of videos to make about the records that I collected over the summer, because I've been focusing a lot on this prog music, and also my sort of lust for mellotron sound, and so I haven't really sort of focused much on records outside of that. So in the next coming videos I'm going to try and show the records that I collected, and I thought, well, shall I do it in such that I show them in batches that I bought them from various different places, but that's kind of irrelevant, I suppose. So what I thought I'd do is just continue on from this gold rock and roll theme and work my way through perhaps the decades of the music that I collected. So for example, here the first record I'm going to show is by the Troggs. From Nowhere, the Troggs. I think this is one of the earlier albums, whether it's the second one or not, I'm not really sure. The first one, Troggs in a cave with stalagmites and stalactites. It's got Wild Thing on it, it's quite a nice record. A little bit of marks on the back which don't look like they're going to come away. I don't know what that is, whether it's some sort of I don't know, it's something sticky, so I reckon someone's put some food on there or something like that, but otherwise it's quite a nice copy. Sounds really good. And the thing is with the Troggs, I don't know about the rest of you, but it's on Fontana. I don't know about the rest of you, but I know Wild Thing, but I don't really know much else by them, so it's been quite an interesting chance to hear what else what they did. Because of lockdown this year, family holidays was spent in Wales again, and also the rest of the UK. We went to different places in England too, but in Wales we went up to mid Wales to another town with a name that I can't pronounce. Begins with an R. I want to say Radir, but I don't think it is Radir. I just need to learn how to pronounce that. But anyway, there was an antique shop there, and I went in, and happily they had some boxes of records, but as antique dealers, you know, they sort of were selling them along those lines. Obviously someone had put in effort to sort of, you know, find suitable prices for these records, so there were one or two there that I thought were quite overpriced. It's always the case, isn't it? Unless it's sort of someone that knows records and collects them, you're never really going to get a very accurate price. But the good thing about them not really knowing what they're doing is that, well, so some are overpriced, there are many that are actually underpriced. And something very strange happened to me in this record, in this antique shop. This record was one that I honed in on straight away. So it's Blue Cheer, new, improved Blue Cheer, and I've sort of been looking out for music by them. You don't see many albums by them over here in the UK because they're an American band, and I don't know really how big they were over here. But I've often seen them being sort of held up or championed as an early proto heavy rock band, and that's really what I was hoping to hear. But well, I think it's fair to say that they're a psychedelic rock band, I suppose. I don't think they're particularly heavy or hard. I mean, you think about what Jimi Hendrix was doing around about the same time. It knocks socks off this, but still, it's a really good listen. Something really strange happened to me in the shop though when I picked this up, and like you do, you know, I took the record out to check, is it okay or is it in bad condition, and the inner sleeve was messed up, so I was struggling to get it back into the record. So this is on Philips. So there I was struggling to insert the record in this broken inner sleeve back into the record, having one of those Graham moments. You've all seen him do it. I think we all do it occasionally, and I struggled to get it in there, and the woman in the shop came right up to me and said, you need to be careful of these, they're very valuable, and she physically took it out of my hands and walked away with it. It never happened to me before in my life. I mean, sort of talking down to me like I was some complete amateur kid, not knowing what I'm doing. And I got very close to just walking out, but it was the lure of the other records that were in the boxes that kept me there. And one of them was this. This is the Byrds. So it's the Ballad of Easy Rider. They'd released a few albums before this. I don't know where this fits exactly in the order of things, but I think it came out in '69. It's not bad. The first time I played this record, I thought to myself, you know, it's a bit too country twangy for me, and I really wasn't sort of expecting to hear that. And so I sort of left it alone for a little while. But then I played it again just the other week, just to sort of pick up on it again, and I was actually quite pleasantly surprised that it wasn't quite as country as what I'd remembered it being, and therefore seemed more palatable to me. That's happened to me before with country tinged music. I can always remember when I was younger listening to Harvest by Neil Young and just thinking to myself, well, I don't want to listen to this, country and western, and just completely dismissed it for many, many years. And then I came back to it at another time, and it was, wow, this was really good. So I think in terms of music that's got a strong country influence and feel to it, for me, I just need to digest it a little bit and give it enough time to really sink in, perhaps. I don't know, but it's not a bad record. I'll come back to them a bit later on another video, I think. This next record I'm going to show, it's like a cheap budget record from the 60s or 70s. It's on MFP, Music for Pleasure, and it's quite badly damaged in terms of, you can see around the outside of this record, it's had sellotape. Now I've taken the sellotape off, but what's left is this nasty, nasty hardened brown residue, sort of glue residue. We'll talk about that in a little while. Anyway, the album it's Jeff Beck, and it's the Music for Pleasure version of his first album as the Jeff Beck Group. I'm a big fan of that music. I've had this album and the next one on CD a long time ago, back in the 90s. I've still got the CD. I listened to it, but it really didn't do much for me. Unsurprisingly, you know, listening to that very same music on record in a different context, it sounds really good. I like the way that Jeff Beck, I mean, he hadn't been long out of the Yardbirds at this point, but he refers to the music that he plays as hard rock. And you really have to put your sort of contextual ears on to hear that, because listen to it now, it's 60s rock music. You need to be able to sort of listen and think to yourself, oh, okay, you know, Led Zeppelin hadn't happened yet, Black Sabbath hadn't happened yet, and those bands sort of redefined what hard rock was. So when you listen to this, you can hear that it's edging that way. Not quite there, but it's, you know, in Jeff Beck's mind, he's really rocking out on this, and I think that's the best way for me to enjoy these records anyway, just by hearing what he was sort of hearing at the time. Yeah, it had a different album cover, the original. I'd love to get a copy of that, but I don't have it, and in the meantime I'm quite happy to stay with this. I know I won't die soon. watching this, a lot of collectors, a lot of record fanatics out there. If anyone could recommend how I might try and take away some of this brown hardened glue residue. I've tried packing it with wet wipes. I tried a rubber eraser. I can't shift it. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter because it is sort of a budget record, isn't it? And the record plays fine. It's not affected by the sellotape at all. But if anyone's got any recommendations about how one can take this brown stuff off, I'd be very, very happy to hear your tips. Next record I'm going to show is Lulu compilation. It's on Decca, and it's in mono. It's one of those ones with the hole in the back, with the red Decca inner sleeve shining through. I actually picked this one up. Look at that, beautiful condition. I picked this one up from that same shop and box of records that I showed in the last video, the rock and roll records. This was in amongst them, and it is, you know, it plays crystal clear. It could have come out of the record shop yesterday. It sounds so good. I quite like a 60s Lulu, and I've got a few of her records now. Very happy to have them. Another female singer. This is a girl called Dusty. Again, this is a sort of a budget label release from the 70s on Contour, and is actually a again, yeah, lovely condition, beautiful shiny record. It is actually a Dusty Springfield original album. It's really good. I like Dusty too. Don't listen to her much. I should really do more listening to Dusty Springfield. It's got that 24 Hours from Tulsa on it. Anyone Who Had a Heart, Will You Love Me Tomorrow. Great stuff. Now, here's onto Creedence Clearwater. Now, I got this record from a charity shop in my town, Barry. It's one that I regularly go to. I think it's the British Heart Foundation, and they're pretty good with their records, although they do aspire to try and make some money off them, so they make an attempt to sort of price them accordingly. Seldom do you get them, sort of all of them at the same price, because that's what they can be bothered to price them as. They have somebody that comes in and tries to seek out what these things cost. And yeah, so this wasn't sort of giveaway or anything like that. It was I think I paid about £6 or £7 for it actually. But yeah, it's an original, well-preserved copy. So I think I've got now most of the Creedence Clearwater catalogue. Not 100% sure, but I've certainly got the lion's share of the classic work that they made. Great to have. I won't do any needle drops of this one because everybody knows Creedence Clearwater so well, don't they? At the same time, from the same shop as I bought that, I came home with this. This is a compilation of, Best of Spirit. Call out to Lisa. I know she's a big fan of Spirit, and she's often mentioned them in her videos. I can't say I'm that well acquainted with them. So, but they're from Los Angeles. A few weeks ago, I met up with Sean Whelan in Cardiff. Sean's from North Wales, around the Snowdon area, and he comes down to visit, I believe, his brother, and his family come down once in a while. And when he does, it's not unusual that he'll contact me and say, "Hey John, I'm coming down, should we get together?" And I always think, yeah, that's a really good idea, Sean, let's do that, because we often get together, you know, we go looking for records, you know, and just have a nice chat, go and have a cup of coffee and milk afterwards, and look at our records and talk about all things vinyl community. So that's really lovely to do. Now, when Sean came, we met in a different part of Cardiff this time. We went to the shop called Divinyl. That's where we met. And then there's a shop close to it. It's called the Record Shop. It's not very far away from it, and I've only recently discovered it. I think it was Sean that told me about it before. And we went in there. And this is one of the records that I pulled out of a box from that shop. It's Boogie with Canned Heat. I already had a copy of this, but you know, it's quite a nice copy, and I thought, well, I can't pass this up. It was in the bargain bin. It's got one or two sort of those sort of scuff marks. I wonder if I can find one to show that will be clear. Well, I mean, that says something, doesn't it? I can't even find a scuff mark to show. Can't see any on that side. There's one or two like hairline cracks here. Not cracks, scratches. Just surface ones. But it plays really good. So yeah, like I said, this is my second copy of this. I'll hang on to it for a while. I think I only paid a couple of quid for it. It's not bad for a record from the 60s, is it really? I went to Denver late last fall. I went to do my job. Yeah, I didn't break any law. We worked a hippie place like many in our land. They couldn't bust the place, and so they got the band. 'Cause police in Denver, no, they don't want them long hairs hanging around. And that's the reason why. Ooh, well, they want to tear Candy's reputation down. You people in Denver will know what I mean. I like Candy. I've always liked them. I like their approach. I like their sort of dirty blues rock feel that they have. It's good stuff. So here's a record that I bought when I went to Hay on Wye this summer. My wife and I took a trip to Hay on Wye for our wedding anniversary, and there's a really, really good record shop there. One of the best ones I've ever been to, actually. He's actually relocated since I was there last time. He's moved into a bigger sort of premises that is very close to where it was before. Lovely man that runs the shop, and he does a fantastic job in cleaning almost everyone that he sells. Not everyone, but most of them. And he marks up whether it's been cleaned or not. So it's great. You buy a used record. His prices are pretty, you know, they're pretty good, I think. And the fact that he's cleaned them really is a sort of a strong selling point for me. Because he has one of those, you know, cleaning machines that he basically sits there all day cleaning records with. So it's Procol Harum. Again, this is an MFP budget copy of this, but it's a budget copy of their album Salty Dog. I don't have much Procol Harum. I hear lots of really good stuff about them. George Allen, I know, is a particular fond fan of Procol Harum, but no, I don't know their music very well. So yeah, it's always really good to find something like this. I think I've paid probably about £2 or £3 for this, really, and it's great shape. And what else have I got here? This record. I can't actually remember where I got this from. Whether this is another record that I picked up while I was meeting up with Sean, or whether this was one that comes from the place, the charity shop where I bought some of the other things. but it is the Fleetwood Mac album called Then Play On. It's got Peter Green on some of the tracks, although it does include also another guitarist. Can't remember what his name was. I'll write that here. It's a little different. I've got some of the early Fleetwood Mac albums, and I really enjoy them. You know, if I could find more of it, I would. And I had hoped that this might be along those lines, but I think this is a little bit more. It's a step away from sort of the blues purity, and it's perhaps going a little more in a sort of a jam type style of music. I can imagine that Peter Green was perhaps losing interest around about this time, but it's a good record. Certainly one to just you know, put on and enjoy for what it is. Great stuff. Okay, everybody, thanks very much. That's my batch of records from the 60s, although I think most of these come from 69. I will call it a day there and say thank you very much for watching. Next video will probably be focusing on 70s music. Thanks very much. Check out my next video. Bye.